All right. Well, why don't we hit go? Josie, for the people who may not know who you are, do you want to tell us a little about who are you and what is Embryo Corp?
Yeah, I have a PhD in biophysics from the University of Chicago, where I studied boring shit that nobody cares about. Let's be honest. It was like protein thermodynamics stuff, which is like, I don't know. It had no relevance to the real world. And so even though I loved it, it was just kind of like mental masturbation because it had no relevance. And so I left to do something different. And I joined NASA and I worked in their synthetic biology program, um, gene editing bacteria and other forms of microbial life to like recycle solid waste like plastics and human solid waste and all that stuff. But I think as much as we all loved NASA growing up, it's like part of the government, and I really learned that by being there. It's just like so much bureaucracy. Um, and I couldn't really handle it, so I left and I started my first company, the Odin, which makes hobbyist genetic engineering kits, so you can do genetic engineering in your home, which is pretty wild. And more recently, I started the Embryo Corp to gene edit all of life. Animal life is what we focus on right now, but I think there's definitely a future where we can branch out into, maybe humans and plants and other things. Yeah.
We were texting just before this. You said we should call the title "Fuck Programming AI. Let's Program Life Instead."
Well, it's like here's the thing, is like we only have one example of sapiens or consciousness in the universe. We only know of one example, and that's like animals and humans, right? Depending on what level you want to talk about. And it's like I feel like there's this huge thing that we're missing. Um, and I wish just people recognize that and would be willing to invest more resources, more research, because it's like, you know, shit, there's only one technology in the world we don't understand, and that's a cell, right? Every other technology we can build from scratch, we can understand, but we cannot do it with a cell, right? It's the only technology. Only one. And it's like, this is alien technology that we're just dismissing because it makes everything, all organic life. When it's like, I don't think that makes it any less interesting. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying AI doesn't have a place, but it's just like, shit. Like, what could we create if we invested AI money into like actual living stuff? We could program reality. That seems, I don't know, this seems cooler to me, maybe.
And maybe it's sort of you're saying it's underrated. Like, yeah, AI is cool, but it's over. It's at least very highly rated, whether it's underrated
I don't
or
know. Where do you rate AI?
I'm, I'm like again, I'm kind of like I rate it very highly, and I don't think it's underrated. I think people are you know appropriately excited, or maybe a little overheated
Yeah, what do
at
you
a certain
think?
moment.
What do you think you're most excited about for AI, and do you think we'll hit AGI like anytime soon?
What am I most excited? The thing I get most excited about is just like I actually think anytime you're at the technological frontier, the truth is that nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of like people that are like, here's how it's going to play out. It'll be this boring thing. It's going to die in this way, or it's going to be this AGI thing. But I kind of feel like the actual truth is that nobody, not even the people who are, you know, planning to spend trillions of dollars building it, can predict what's going to happen next. And we're just we've been in a moment of like very fast progress where kind of like new miraculous seeming things have become possible. And as always happens, 10 minutes later, everyone's like, "Oh, no, that's boring," and nobody cares about, you know, you can talk to your computer now and it knows what you're saying. Really the thing that
Yeah, it
matters is
is.
this next thing. But the thing that excites me is just like, uh, we don't know what is gonna happen next, and it
How
could
does
be
that pitch go with investors though, you know? Like,
well, yeah, you don't wanna I don't know. I try not to focus too much on what what the investors want. I wanna make things that are good. Um,
right, yeah, that's a good
but
point, I love
you're
that.
sitting here, you're like, "Okay, AI is fine, but the real cool thing is life, is
Yeah.
cells and genes and the things that the organic things that we're made of." I'd be remiss if we didn't make a pun that, all of the AI companies think they're making unicorns, but you are trying to literally make unicorns.
Yeah, for real. I don't know. It's like you look at an embryo, right? And it's this single cell. It starts out as a single cell, right? The sperm and the egg come in and the nucleus is fused, whatever, and it's a single cell. And from that, from like almost identical single cells, right? If I put embryo from like a dog or a human underneath a microscope, like 99.9% of people wouldn't be able to tell a difference. Um, and from this embryo, you get like all of life, all the massive diversity, right? Like a giraffe or an elephant or a dog or a cat or a human, right? So there's something programmed in there that makes that happen. And if we understand that programming, we could start to create new things, which is like, oh my God, you're literally programming reality at that point. And I don't know, I've always been more, I guess, reality pilled than digital pilled, even though I'm probably online as much as most people. But it's like, what? I don't know. What's cooler than that, than like literally programming reality?
So your Substack today says how Embryo Corp took the first step towards creating real unicorns. Can you tell, like, what is this
Yeah,
thing? What did you make?
I don't know. So it's like we got into this and it's hard to gene edit embryos, right? I mean, you can imagine it's like a pretty rare resource. Getting an embryo of any animal, regardless of what it is. Um, and we've been around a year and a half, and we started out with like amphibians and fish because they'll lay like 1,000 eggs, right?
Mhm.
And so you can take those 1,000 eggs and kind of like build out your workflow for life. Um, and then of course you move to mice and you gene edit mice because that's the standard. People have already done that. Then we move to rabbits because they're a larger mammal that also have a really short gestation time. You can make a rabbit in 30 days. Um, and then once we did that, you start to be like, all right, what's next? What do we really want to do? What's stuff that hasn't really been done before? And you start looking at big animals like horses and cattle and pigs, things that actually have an economy, are involved in people's lives, are involved in culture and all these things. And we wanted to start working with horses. Um, Obviously, the dream would be to make something like a unicorn, and I think it's not something that's completely unreasonable. Um, but the first step was just figuring out how to gene edit an embryo. Up till this point, nobody has ever directly gene edited an embryo. They've like cloned, cells into embryos, um, but they've never directly gene edited an embryo. There've been less than 15 mammals that have had their embryos gene edited. That's crazy. That's crazy when you think about all the animals that exist and everything that's out there. And it's like, I think, you know, um, Trey Stevens wrote this article a while ago about, choose good quests. And I feel like to a certain extent, Silicon Valley has fucking lost its way. And it's like people are choosing money making quests and not good quests, right? Not things that'll just like change humanity and for the better. And like you said, it's like I want to move outside that realm of just like obviously we have to make money as a company, you know. If you want to build something big, capitalism needs to be a part of it, but it's like if possible, I want to work on something that's as massive as it can be, because if we can engineer life, you know, we can engineer ecosystems, we can engineer worlds, and like what is crazier than that?
Very cool.
Is that pretty crazy?
It sounds a good amount of crazy, and I wanna ask some questions
Uh,
about it, but maybe, like, okay, so you're saying, is this the first time somebody's actually edited a horse embryo?
yeah. Hmm.
What did you do to it? It's not a unicorn yet. What is
It's
it?
a unicorn, yeah. So we took a jellyfish gene that makes it fluorescently glow, and we put it into the genome. Um, we put it in this gene MC1R, which is involved in coat color. Um, because we wanted to, or the goal is to, it's like definitely we want to work with horses for performance and reduce injuries and, help them out and all the things that they do. But, I think that there's some aspect that, gene editing opens up the diversity of life. It's like, yo, Chris, this is the first time in the history of the universe that we can edit genes. Every other animal that was alive, every other animal was born through, sexual reproduction. The genes were just selected randomly, the mutations. It's the first time in the history of the fucking earth that we can choose. That's crazy. And it's like nobody, I feel like, it's like, am I taking crazy pills? It's like, I feel like, why don't people care more? Like, we're literally like, what the fuck? This is like the foundation of life, and like, we can do stuff with it, and everybody's just like, scientists are just gene editing mice, you know? It's
So
like,
that's interesting because I would have thought, or I would have expected, and I would ask you the question. I expect some people will have the reaction of like, "Oh man, this seems like a sci-fi horror movie," right? Like, "Oh no, the scientists got so wrapped up in what they could, they never stopped to ask should they?" And like, so there's kind of like, I don't know. I'm like, how do you think about kind of like the not the doomer case, but just the skeptical case that says, "Hey, this is crazy. This is dangerous. This is your Substack is called amateurgods.substack.com." I think some people would read that and think, "Huh, this is hubris. Like you shouldn't be playing God." I mean,
well, can I ask
how
you
do
a
you
question first
go
and turn
go?
the question on you? Like, I think a lot of people have, a lot of people know that or believe that that the social media probably has a lot of negative impacts for society and stuff like that. How do you respond to that, and how does that affect you? And I believe I love Substack because I believe that like one of the answers to that is like long form content, because it's like when somebody can write a quick shitty hot take, you know, it's a lot easier to get angry than if somebody writes something that's really long that you actually have to read and invest in and you have to understand. But, yeah, how do you feel about that?
I find it very motivating. I mean, this is one of the big reasons I wanted to work on Substack in the first place. Like when we started in 2017, I was kind of looking at the world and thinking, "Oh, we've invented this new media technology that wires everybody together, and it's insanely powerful, and it's in the process of driving us completely fucking crazy." And
Mm,
a natural, like, one response you could have to that is like, stop the technology, turn back the clock."
yeah.
Um, but I think there's a better response. I mean, if you look back at like the printing press, right? The printing press was a massive transition in human civilization and
Yeah,
ended
for
up
sure.
being a very, very good thing. It sort of sparked the Enlightenment and sparked a lot of like
Yeah.
the modern world that we now live in. And if you look at the early history of the printing press in the first like 30 years afterwards, what it actually sparked was like a bunch of super violent religious wars. And like the reason we have freedom of the press is because the first reaction people had would be like, "Oh God, shut down this devil machine that's ruining the youth and driving people crazy."
Yeah, that's
And
true.
I'm sort of like both can be true. Basically,
Yeah.
both we can be at at this hinge point in history where we're just leaping off into this crazy new world where we're wired together in a new way. And the early first version of it that we all plugged ourselves into is like
Do
a
you think
rough
all
one.
breakthrough technologies are kind of like this, where, it's like, you kind of like there are going to be repercussions that we can't predict, but, you know, the goal is to, I don't know, innovate out of that or
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think technology broadly understood is neither good nor bad. It's just powerful. Um, Technology gives power, and then figuring out how to harness that power for good is the job. It's not something that
yeah.
happens automatically, but it is something that's possible, and it is something that is worth pursuing and worth doing. And maybe there's another thing because it's like, there's the skeptical argument that says we should never make our horse embryos glow in the dark because that's not how God wanted them to be or whatever. But there's the other response that's almost weirder, which is just like not. It's almost like at the early stage, the truly transformational things are invisible. It's like it's hard to even get people to notice or care about the thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Have
I
you
kind of feel like that a lot, you know? It's like I've been working on this stuff for a while now, and even now with investors, it's like if I just went through the list of breakthroughs that we've done on my team ourselves in the past, year and a half with the amount of money we raised, it's insane in scientific standards, like literally insane. I've never seen a lab that can do this shit as fast and break so many boundaries, make so many scientific breakthroughs in such
what
a
are some of
short
those
period
things?
of
I mean,
time.
there's the horse embryo, but what are some of the other ones?
Some of the other things we've done, we're the first team to edit embryos outside mice while they're still in the oviduct, So this is a huge thing that we're trying to push because if you think about embryo editing, one of the big problems is you have to like have an egg and sperm, or you have to edit the embryo outside the womb and then put it back in, right? And so we've been developing a lot of technology in how to edit the embryo while it's still in the oviduct. And we're the first team in the world to do that outside of mice. You know, I mean, um, yeah, I don't, we did cat embryos recently. I'm hoping to post a lot of this progress online this week. It's like we got, cat sperm and eggs, and we did cat embryos recently. Gene edited, the first step into making them completely hypoallergenic. Um,
Cats
you
are
know,
promising. A lot of the early internet was driven by cat videos. If you could have the cats grow up in some cute way, I think that might be the answer to your virality question.
and it's just like, well, I mean, I don't. I think viral is part of it. I've gone viral before lots of times. I think part of it is just like, um, how do I get people to actually care, right? Because it's like easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but nowadays it's like, I don't know, you have a media team, you pay them uh 200K a year, and you're gonna get some viral posts. I mean, for my other company, I have a social media person team, and like we get a viral post like, you know, twice a month or something. But I think the key is like, how do we turn this oh, sorry. How do we turn this into like a movement? Because it's like I can't myself create, it's like with computers, it wasn't one company that created the computer revolution or even one company that created the social media revolution or AI revolution. It's been lots of companies, right? And so I think it's going to take something similar. And there are companies like Colossal, um, who are doing stuff similar enough.
Everyone's
Um,
talking about bringing back mammoths or making elephants look more
yeah,
like mammoths.
yeah. And I think, it's like science, biotech is so stuck in this like pharma paradigm where it's like, and I think investors can't break out of that idea either. They're like, wait, it's biotech can only be pharma and that's it. If it's not pharma, I don't know what to do. Like my brain is going to implode. Um, but I think it's like there's becoming this new generation of biotech companies that is trying to build for the real world. Um, for real markets. And yeah, it's gonna have to be bigger than me. And trying to get more people to, be convicted and push in on this stuff it's been hard.
If we could create Jurassic Park, should we do it?
You know, yeah, I mean, hell yeah. Fuck, I want to see a dinosaur. Um, but I think, we think about Jurassic Park, but it's like, and there's all these cool things, unicorns and stuff, but we think like, xenomedicine is starting to become a thing, growing organs in pigs and then transplanting them in humans. We've already done this with like kidneys and hearts and stuff. It's like, imagine if there was an unlimited supply of organs, right? Like, that'd be insane. And you want to talk about living forever. It's like, you're not going to live forever no matter how many shots of Brian Johnson's olive oil you take, but you might be able to, like, I love you, Brian. but,
But if you could grow a new liver in a pig, maybe.
but if you could replace all your organs, like, you're probably going to be able to live longer than, you would otherwise, right? And so it's like, you have stuff like that. You have like, meat production or food production. It's like, I think one of the things that we're going to, what's going to be like the terrible ethical thing that our grandchildren say about us, and I think it's going to be eating meat. It's terrible. And being able to make ethically produced meat by gene editing animals to feel no pain or have no brain or no frontal lobe or some, it's like, I think that's gonna really, reshape the agriculture industry. Um, I think there's so many things like this that we just like, don't see on a basic level. And it's like, there's so many contributions animals make to our life. And just think about this, the fucking loneliness epidemic. And, people are trying to sell you an AI fucking pendant. And it's like, we already have the answer to that, right? It's like our pets, our companions, right? Imagine if you could interact with your pet. Imagine if you could communicate with it actually on some level, even if it was like the level of a 2-year-old or something like that, right? It's like we have answers to these things already in the real world with animals, with life. And I think we're seeking out all these other, not to say that it might not help or work, but it's like, I don't fucking think an AI pendant is going to be your friend, but I think, you can fall in love with a cat or a dog or a mini pig or something. I really think you can. Or a unicorn, you know,
Or a unicorn.
taking pre-orders now.
I saw somebody in the comments ask about dragons, which you and I talked about, and you seem to think that creating dragons would be a bad idea.
um, it depends what type of dragon. If they could fly and escape and do stuff. No, it's like, I've thought a lot about this biotech stuff, and you think about like, what is going to be like the iPhone of biotech? And some people are like, oh, it's Ozempic, and I'm just like, no, pharma will never be that because you can never just buy it at the store, or, just make the purchase, um, impulse buy. But I really do think it'll be something like a dragon, right? It's like, imagine if we created a little dragon, that could fly, flap its wings and fly a little bit, and sold them for the same price as an iPhone, let's say $2,000 or something like that. It's like, how many do you think that you would sell? I imagine it would be a lot. And you'd have to develop factories and infrastructure. There would be a new job, which would be like, I'm a dragon, husbandry person. Like, I mother the dragons. There really literally be a mother dragon.
I have a dragon rookery or whatever a dragon that would
Yeah,
be called.
rookery. I love that. Yeah.
Um,
But it's like, I think these things are possible. And, um, it's even hard because, a lot of sci-fi doesn't involve biology. There's very little biology sci-fi. A lot of it focuses on the digital world. But it's like, I think once we can start imagining this stuff collectively as a society, it's just going to really happen. And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to do on a basic level is like, how much do I want to make a unicorn? I don't really care. But if you can make a unicorn, you can make organs, you can make agriculture. you could make animals nobody's ever seen before that have never existed in the history of the universe. And that's kind of, I'm trying to capture people's imagination with the unicorn and the dragon.
Fantastic. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for coming on my Substack. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Besides hitting the subscribe button and signing up to get your Substack, where else can people find you?
Um, you can find my website at building.life, and of course, I'm on Substack and all of the social medias. Look out for me. Follow along on this journey as we start talking about our progress and all the stuff we're doing here in the lab because it's really cool and it's really crazy. And I just hope that people can get as excited as I am about it. You know. And thanks for having me on with you. I really appreciate you and your support. It's been great. And just shout out to all the homies in my lab. Like, those are the real ones who've been helping me build all this stuff. All
Fantastic. All right. I gotta head. Thank you. This is great.
right. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Appreciate you.